Hi, we're back. In that dissect video you saw how we got from the sketch right here to the final product, and we kind of reverse engineered a little bit, tweaking the widths of the sidebars, adding some new items, adding different compound styles to make different links, link treatments, and let's see how that all would come about. Of course, here's the module. We've got the assignment. You can use the pre-made layouts. I know some of you have been asking if you could go just totally from scratch if you're feeling brave and or knowledgeable. Yes, feel free to do that, but no deductions or anything for using Dreamweaver's pre-made layouts. That's just fine. There's quite a bit of reading with this one, a little bit more about CSS. Here's kind of a what to do, and we'll walk through this. We'll start off with a root folder, inside that a CSS folder and an images folder, very important. Get back to that in a moment. We'll start off building a blank page from a Dreamweaver layout, and again, a sketch is really important this time. Sketch it out, see how it will look. Give some thought to the overall look, give some thought to planning. What would that accomplishing that look mean in terms of building widths and heights and putting images in? Are they placed images or background images? And these are things you'll have to think about. We're not necessarily using image-based navigation. You can do text-based navigation. That's just fine for this time. And in fact, it's probably good to get some practice at those A tags. Let's see, unique content per page, a headline, a paragraph or so, an image on each page, and a link somewhere in that page to all the other pages. Also on the index page, this I didn't include in the demo. On the index page, include a paragraph about why you chose the layout you did and how it supports your content. So you might want to scan in that sketch and describe a little bit about how that influenced some of the decisions that you made. For the higher level grade, let's see, we need links off of the images, anchors, which we may want to demonstrate here. Links off of image maps for part of your image, that's in your reading in the book. I probably won't go into that in the video, but it's another way to get some more points. And links to existing pages that target to a blank browser window. Images placed as smart objects, which is also in the book. On page 145, you'll also want to optimize all of your images. And after this assignment, that'll be part of the C-level requirement. So I will need to go into Photoshop and show you how to do that. Let's see here. Links from the last module will probably be helpful as well. And a list of plenty of things to do as before, spell check, of course. And here's a list of above C-level requirements. The rubric requires you for the B or the A to put a certain number of these from this list into your site. And the rubric itself, of course. Well, there we go. Well, let's take a look at how to build a site from that sketch that I had to that finished product. Now you'll want to set up, of course, your root folder, yourname_5, and inside that, this time a CSS folder. That's where we'll house these external CSS documents. I would think most of our sites from now on in the semester will have a CSS folder in that root folder. And of course an images folder. Based on my sketch, I've populated this with a number of images. Here they are. That's the astronaut for the sidebar. I've gone in and created some background images for header and sidebar 1. And of course for my photos for each page, I've pulled these off of Morguefile and put them into a little frame that was of my own making in Photoshop. Don't feel like you have to go, fancy schmancy like this if you don't have, skills in Photoshop or Illustrator just yet. A regular photo will be just fine. Just fine. Now, to start off, of course, I've got to go into Dreamweaver and manage sites. There we go, which I've already done. I've got your name _5. I've got my root folder named. In my case, it's out on my desktop. There it is. And no remote server. So I'm all done. And let's go up to File and get New, which gives me this dialog box. I want a blank page, not a template. We'll deal with templates in a week or two. I'll be doing the old Save As here, so we'll make that index page first and do the Save As. I did a 3-column, not elastic, I did a hybrid, a 3-column hybrid header and footer. This gave me a percentage for my main content. It gave me M measurements, which I changed into pixel measurements later. Oh, now, up till now, you've probably, here where it says Layout CSS, we probably have gone with the default, which was add to head. In other words, make it internal CSS. We can tell Dreamweaver to make this external CSS right away, right from the beginning. Let's do that. So here under Layout CSS, before you hit Create, choose whichever layout suits your design. You can feel free to pick this one. Don't necessarily have to. Not a big deal. I'm more interested in how you manipulate this than which one you pick and how it fits with your plan. But before you hit Create, do say under Layout CSS, Create New File. And let's do that. Hit Create. Oh, and since it's a managed site, there it goes into my root folder. It wants to know where I want to save the CSS. And you can save it as 3-column hybrid header.css if you want. Yeah, I think we might as well do that. And so I'll put it in my CSS folder because it goes to my root folder, but it's cognizant that I might want to put that in some other folder and not just automatically put it in the root folder. If I had not created a CSS folder inside my root folder yet, I have that opportunity now to hit New Folder, but I have it, so I'll put it there. There we go. And here's what I get. This is how that page started out. And let's see, here over in Files, here's my site. There's CSS. There's that external CSS that I just created. In the split view, we can see I don't have that voluminous list of styles. I've got a nice short head data, just 14 lines, and it's got right here a link. Oh, that's a big, long, stinky link. That indicates to me that something was not quite right. I'm going to do this again just to make sure. Oh, I don't have to. You can see what happened. There's nothing in here that says index page, is there? CSS. Well, so let's try that again. I'll do Command N. Oops. In Dreamweaver, Command N for new. There we go. What was it? 3-column hybrid header and footer. Create new file. Yeah, it'll ask me if I want to replace it. Most likely. Yeah, there it is. Hit saved. I want to replace. Yes. And before I do anything else at all, here was my big clue, Untitled 2. We want to save that into the root folder. Save it as index.html. Not index2, not index-climate, just index.html. The first page of every site should be index.html. So I'll save it in the root folder. Now, when I go up into the head data, there we go. Link href equals CSS / 3-column hybrid header.css. That's exactly what I want. Nice short little link. Up here in my title, of course, let's see, mine was going to be my trip to Mars, and that first page was climate. So that's what I can put in my title right away. And now we can start changing out CSS, get to that serious business of changing out CSS. In my plans, I was going to have the color of black all over. So we can change that to the background color of body. There we go. Now not the type color, but the background color. Change to black. Oops, black. There we go. Type we could even change to white, because that's what it'll need to be. It might look a little funny while we're in transition here. Yeah, there it goes. That's swell. Now what did we do by changing that to body? Let's see. Let's save. And yeah, save them now. Here we go. If I move that window down, I've got things that are outside of this container but shown in the browser, which in this case is just whatever's below the footer, because my container is set at 100%. But that assures me that anything outside of there will be shown in black. What's going to change my background here? Container. That's that overall larger box. See if I can highlight something here. I'll get a P tag, I'll get the div that it's in, and then eventually I'll get container. That's the overall containing div tag or box that pretty much this whole page is in. So let's double click on there. It's got a background color of white right now. We'll change that to black. And I think you'll see that center portion apply. There it is. White type on black. We're partway there. My sidebars are specified with background colors of gray. So we could specify black, or we could go in here. Since container is black, we could go in here and specify none. I think that's what I'm going to do. On my sidebars, I'll double click on my sidebar. I'll go to background, not type, but background color. And we'll just get the little red slash there for none. And click OK. And we're moving along fairly handily here. Same for header. Same for header. Since container is black, that's what I want in my whole site, since I'm kind of trying to be out in space. I'll also hit none. And footer, even though I'd have to scroll down to see it, yeah, it's still gray. So here we go, footer. Now I've got footer and footer P. Footer P controls any text with a P tag that is contained within footer. That makes it a little bit distinctive from other things on the page that might have a P tag. Although this one with the ID with # footer and no other designation, that controls everything else that says footer on it. So if we do it in footer, it should apply in footer P unless there's something that negates that. So we'll give it a background color of none. And there we go. My whole page has a black background. I'll save that about now and we'll preview. Oh, and in the browser, if you get something you didn't quite expect, try hitting refresh or review, or some browsers call it different things. It's usually reload, a little circular arrow here, and that's kind of what I was expecting. Right. Now these sidebars right now, their width is controlled by an M dimension, and that means however big the capital letter M in my text is, we're getting, I think it said 12 or 13 of those wide on sidebar 1 and sidebar 2. In order to accommodate my images, I want to change that to pixels. So let's do sidebar 1. I can double click, or here is the in the properties, and again, I'm working from all, not current, of course, and properties can show in different ways depending on how you click these buttons at the bottom. I kind of have a preference for seeing only the properties that I've specified. If I know I just want to change my width, I can change that right here from 11M to 200 pixels. 200 Ms would be quite a sidebar. That would kind of dominate the page. 200 px pixels, and that will accommodate some image. Now in doing that, we can see what happens if you can look carefully here and see these little outlines of sidebar and main content. They're now overlapping. But let's change sidebar 2, and then we'll go back and change out main content. You can also double click on these and change under box, change the width to 200 pixels, px. And I'll click OK. That's the only change I want to make right now. And now on to main content. The main content, since I'm dealing with a percentage in the container, main content, the width is controlled by some margins on the side. It had enough margin to accommodate those 11 or 12 ems of width from each of the sidebars. So here under box, we've got margin. Now in the CSS styles properties list here, I don't have the luxury of saying, gee, which one's top, left, right. It goes like a clock. Top, right, bottom, left. So top 0, right 12, bottom 0, left 12. I want margins on the right of 210 pixels. That will get me outside that 200 pixel width of my right sidebar, and same on the left in my case. Yours, of course, will be different depending on how you want to structure your site. There we go. Now that'll work, and I'll save that, test that out, refresh. There we go with my new widths. And you'll see a little bit of a difference when we go up and down, or zoom in and out, now that those are pixel width. Let's see here. So header. I know that my image that I'm going to put into header is 64 pixels high. I know that because I kind of measured it in Photoshop. You might, depending on what background image you use, or if you just use a background color, may want to do something different. So for box and header, I'm going to put a height of 64 pixels. And let's go ahead and browse for that background image right now. There it is in Images, Mars Corner 1 or 2. Yeah, 1. There's my starburst, or solar flare. There we go. Click OK. And I needed to tell it not to repeat. Not to repeat. Background image. By default, it'll just repeat X and Y, side to side, top to bottom. Repeat, repeat, repeat. We'll say no repeat. Pow. And then that far image goes away. We get just the blackness of space. Now here in sidebar 1, I want to continue that little diagonal stripe that I had. So I'll double click sidebar 1. We'll put a background image of Mars Corner 2. That's that little sliver. And you'll notice it says ... / images because we're going outside the CSS folder into the images folder, getting the image. It writes a path from the CSS folder. So we'll do no repeat there also. There it is. What would happen if I repeated repeat Y? Of course, would be lots of little slivers there, which we don't want in my case. So no repeat. There, and those go away. Let's see. We need an astronaut over here. And I did that as a background image also. Could have done that as a placed image. Let's try it as a placed image. Let's see. Oh no, if I do it as a placed image, it will give me some padding. Now I could change the padding. I've got a 200 pixel wide image. I've got 200 pixels of width here. Let's change that padding to 0 all around. And let's try putting it in as a placed image. Astronaut. A-U-T, astronaut. Let's see how that works. That would work. That does the job, and I don't have to put a bunch of returns in there to maintain the height of that sidebar, because if this were a background image, I would just see a little slice of it unless I put a bunch of returns in. So this is probably a little bit better solution than I had in my original. See, there's sidebar 2, nice and neat, just a placed image. Okay, now over here in sidebar 1, I've just had my navigation. I did climate, what was it, nightlife, sightseeing, oh, S-I-G-H-T, not website seeing, sightseeing, and natives. Rather than heading 3, I'll stick with a P tag on all of these just to keep things equal. And I'll try putting a link on this first one, index.html. My climate page is sneakily my index page. And there we go. So by default, I get the underline, purple, very thin type, Verdana though it may be. I can modify general links by going up to page properties and hitting the category of links. I can change link color, link font, bold, italic, link size, whether to always underline. So let's do that. Let's get Verdana, bold. I'll make these fairly substantial, 18 pixel. Link color. Let's see, we went with white at first, which is kind of odd. Could be a mistake, you know, to do that. You know, I tell you what, let's go with Mars red. Will that give us an eyedropper? Yes. If I click on link color, it gives us an eyedropper, and I can borrow that link from Mars red. Let's do with visited links. You know, we'll change this up a bit from how I had it in the demo. Visited links. Let's get this sort of greenish color. Rollover links. Get a brighter red. And active links, we could go white. Rather than always underline, we'll show underline only on rollover, which is what I did before. That's pretty good. Now I'll click OK, and a nasty little thing happens. I get some style information internally in this document, but we of course know what to do about that. There they are. They're my internal styles in that little bracketed word, style. I can select all of those, move them to not a new style sheet this time, but this existing one. And in case I'm not sure about if that's the right one, I can browse to it. Yes, it was. I'll click OK. Pow, there they are. I've still got my links. I'll save this. And we'll hit refresh. There we go. And since climate has been visited, it shows up like that. Let's see if we can do nightlife. And remember how you spell it when you write your links. It could be spelled differently than your text, as I've done here, just so you remember where that is. And now, is it going to show up? Oh, no, it's not visited. That was my original color, right? Let's save. And yes, there we are. So I roll over it. It gives me that brighter red with the underline. And you see when I click, that's that active state. It goes white. So that's kind of a nice scheme we've got going there. Now if I wanted to create something similar in footer, let's see how we do that. We could go here. Well, first I'll write the links in footer, climate, space, and I'll do a pipe, which is above your return key. There's a little backslash. If you do shift backslash, you get the straight up and down pipe, which is quite often used in text links. Let's see, Nightlife site, seeing, natives. There we go. And I'll highlight climate and put index.html. I'll highlight Nightlife, and I'll be sure and spell that the same odd way that I did the first time. Nightlife.html. Here we go. And our standard link strategy applies. But they do look kind of horsey down there. I'd like to see them smaller, really would. And this can be fairly simple and done straight into, straight into our external CSS. I'll go to New, and we'll do compound tags, of course, of the H1, H2, P, that sort of thing. Class would be if we had a class style on a particular paragraph anywhere on the page. ID, I've got to show you that ID of the photo element. And what we want is compound. We want a link style that will apply only in the footer. So I'll get compound. And by virtue of having made a selection in the footer, I get the footer P style. And I don't want P, and I have the luxury of just going in here and deleting that, and I'll just type in A. I know that the links are controlled by this A tag, so I'll just type in A. I'll click OK, and it gives me the usual dialog box, just like anywhere else. Font family, we don't want to change. I do want the weight to be normal rather than bold, and I do want the size to be bumped down a bit. Let's try 12 pixels. I think that's all the changes I want to make. I like the color scheme. So let's do that. I'll click OK. Yeah, they're smaller. Now, why aren't these smaller? They haven't been designated as links yet, but Climate and Nightlife have. I will designate Sightseeing and Natives shortly, but let's just save and see what those are like. I'll scroll down here. Yep, there they are. They have the same behavior as before. Cool. We'll do one more thing, and then I'll address some Photoshop issues in a different video. We'll do one more thing in this one. I'm going to set up that ID. Now, an ID is it's a CSS entity unto itself. It can only be used once per page. It's quite often a div tag or a box, but not necessarily. Other things could be an ID. Let's see. I'll go to New. And ID applies to only one HTML element. Let's get that, and I'll call it photo right. ID photo right. Okay. And let's see what that does for us. And it puts the pound sign by it. We don't necessarily need font information. I know that I've got a 200 pixel width. I know that I want it to float to the right because of how I'd planned this page. And I want a little bit of margin on it, but not the same for all. At the top, I think I had 10. Right, I don't want any. I want it to be just flushed with the right edge of the rest of that main content. Bottom, I want 10 pixels, and left, we want 20. Give it a good good healthy space between the text and the image, and I'll click OK. And nothing much really happens because I didn't put it anyplace. I'm going to pop a cursor right here at the top of this paragraph, and even though I want my ID on the right, I'm going to pop the cursor on the left because that'll put it right in between main content and this first paragraph. So I can go under the Common tab under the Insert panel. Under Common tab, I can scroll around here and get something called Insert Div Tag. And I'll add insertion point, or you could put it in various places. Add insertion point's fine for this one, and I'll get photo right. And it gives me a list of all IDs that haven't been used yet on this page. And there it is. By default, it has a bit of text in there. Content for ID photo right goes here. You know, just so you know that something's supposed to go in there. I'm going to get rid of that, and I've still got my cursor, and then I'll just place an image, and I'll grab that Mars pic number 1. Picture of the climate on Mars. There it is, and that's pretty much my page. In another video I'll have to address anchors, and we'll address some of those Photoshop issues that we had talked about also. But that's how to build the page that I built from sketch to new document to all the adjustments I made in the CSS. So hope that's helpful.